You don't have a dime in a building. You don't pay for no labor. I'm not even talking about the jobs ABC provides. And if you don't buy liquor, you're paying for none of this, but you're benefiting from that. So it's my understanding from my legislative buddies, when it gets into session every year about privatization, they can't get past that number. How do we make that up?
Well, $700 million is a lot of money.
How do we make that up?
Right. Well,
when you got no risk, it's just dumping into your account and across the state of North Carolina. You got legislation that is perfectly wrote, and you're out of sight, you're out of mind, and for the most part, other than some mistakes here and there, it's ran very well, producing jobs. Every building in here, it belongs to the county. If we shut down or went into privatization tomorrow, we would turn our property over to the county. If it's in a municipality, county, from being on county commissioners, they probably would give it to the town, or they would sell it at auction and put the money in general funds.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden, and today we have as our guest former Johnston County Commissioner and the current head of the ABC stores here in Johnston County, Chad Stewart, who is from Four Oaks, and he's been here his whole life, and he's forgotten more about Johnston County than I'll ever know. We're going to talk to him a little bit about what the ABC stores do, how the ABC stores are regulated, what his job with the ABC stores is. We'll talk a little bit about some of the farming he's done. He owns a store, and he was on the county commissioners for a long time. So this will be a real interesting look back at Johnston County and a very educational thing that I'm looking forward to about exactly how is liquor regulated in North Carolina. Welcome, Chad.
Hey, thank you for the invitation.
All right, no problem. So introduce yourself to the audience. Just tell who you are, where you're from.
I'm Chad Stewart. I'm from Four Oaks, North Carolina. I'll be 54 years old September 9th. I was born in 1970. I was born in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. My father was in Vietnam, and he was stationed in Oklahoma when he got back from Vietnam, and that's where I was born. When I was 1 or 2 years old, we moved back to Four Oaks, where I've got a generational family all the way through my great-grandparents. I currently live now right around the corner from where I was born and raised. We got a generational farm land down to Devil's Racetrack, Bentonville, Strickland's Crossroad area. We've run cows, and now with all I've got going on, I currently rent my farmland out to farmers. But we still enjoy it for hunting and fishing, and I've got 3 boys. I've got what's probably going to be a junior at UNC Wilmington, my oldest, Grant Stewart. My middle one's Andrew Lance Stewart. He is graduating from South Johnston this year.
Oh, that's great.
And my youngest boy is Grimes Oakley Stewart, and he turned 16 in October, and he'll be a rising junior at South Johnston. And speaking of South Johnston, is where I graduated from in 1988. My wife graduated from in 1993, and she is currently a math teacher at South Johnston.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And,
so we're very community oriented. I graduated in 88. I went to North Carolina State University, which we follow very well. We ran into you down in Dallas.
For the Sweet 16. That was a lot of fun.
Following the
journey.
Yep, love the pack. Unfortunately, my dorm was too close to Hillsborough Street, so I lasted a whole year. And with the advice from my parents or my dad, because he was a military guy, I joined the United States Navy. I served 4 years, 90 to 94, United States Navy. I met my wife then in 1992. She's 5 years under me. She was still in high school, which would probably be illegal today, but 32 years later, I think we're okay. When I got out of the military, she was entering college. I entered JCC, got a 2-year associate degree. I transferred to Campbell University. There, I received a Bachelor of Business from Campbell University, and my wife graduated with state, and we started our family. We got married in 98, and we're still together.
Hey, that's good.
Johnston County.
Hey, that's good, because as a divorce lawyer, to see anybody that can stay married 26 years, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, we'll make you a lot of money, but I'm sure you. What is the rate now?
Oh, it depends on how much you want to fight.
What's the divorce rate?
The divorce rate is, they say 50% overall. I don't know if there's an actual statistic somewhere. I've never
Yeah.
seen something where somebody did a study.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do think that it gets a little skewed, Chad, in that first marriages succeed at 75%, and then every subsequent marriage thereafter, the divorce rate gets higher and higher. So it might be 50%, but it's definitely not 50% of first marriages.
I got you.
Where
Okay.
second marriages are often more than 50%, third marriages are more like 70% in the divorce, that kind of stuff. So I think that may skew the numbers. I've been happily married for, coming up on, oh my gosh, 17 years. So I'm a big fan of marriage. I hope everybody should get married. And if you're in one that you need to get out of, or it's not working for you,
And it's just not for everybody.
we can help you at the Breeden Law Office, do that. So you got that business degree at Campbell, and you came back.
did.
I know your father owned some businesses in the town.
My father owned Keener Lumber Company. They had a sawmill between Newton Grove and Clinton. My granddaddy started it with his brother in 1962, the year my daddy graduated high school. He's a Campbell graduate also. He served as a captain in the Army. He was a county commissioner, was elected when the sheriff was the first time, and Allen Mims in 1998. He served 14 years. He died in office January 14th, 2013.
Right, I remember that.
When he did, the board asked me to fill out. He had 2 years left on his term. They appointed me to fill out his term, and I enjoyed it. I ran their 4-year terms. I ran a one, and then served 4 years. I ran again, and I won. And I was 2 years into my second 4-year term, and I was actually chairman of the county commissioners when this Johnston County ABC general manager job came available.
And that was in 2020?
I think 2022.
2022.
November. November 1st, if I'm not mistaken, when I came on with Johnston County ABC.
Okay.
The former general manager was there for 20 years. Swade Carroll did a great job. We'll get more into that.
Right.
But he retired, and he was nice enough to let his board know, and we'll get into that, a year ahead of time. I contacted the county attorney, the county manager. I had people from the county and friends approach me and said, hey, back to your point, what we do, other than sawmills, we own convenience stores, hardware stores, bunch of retail, car lot, garage. Since my dad passed and I've took on all this other, I've sold a lot of it off. We still own our farmland, but we rent it. And I still do North Carolina vehicle inspections at 301 Service Center. I'm on 301 in Four Oaks, but it's an attachment. So the actual gas station I rent out, it's got a grill inside. It's also subleased. So a conglomerate of things. But with my retail background that I started when I entered college in 94 and my political experience, kind of this position fell into place. And I got approached by members of the county and friends and family and said, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? And I said, I ain't thought about it. I'm chairman of the County Board of Commissioners. And so I had a year to vet it. I vetted it through attorneys, our county attorney, Jennifer Slusher, my personal attorney, Chip Hewitt, and we looked at statutes. And in the state, there are situations where county commissioner also serves as a general manager of ABC. Now, they might be more rural counties. So we looked at that option. And it was my decision, but I felt that it didn't look right to the public. I just didn't feel like that because I work for a 3-member board that is appointed by county commissioners. So keep in mind, I was hired and took a job by 3 people I was part of putting there.
Correct.
So I felt that it would be deceptive to the public for me. I definitely would have stepped down as chair,
Right.
But it would have been deceptive to be a county commissioner appointing people that I report to with somewhat we call tax-paid dollars for
Right.
my salary. And
Right.
we'll get into that later. So it was a decision that I didn't want anybody to think that I'd be deceptive in any way whatsoever. So I made a choice.
Well, and I'm glad you did, because when I first heard about it, my first thought was he cannot stay as the county commissioner, because I knew the county commissioners appointed that board, and I couldn't figure out exactly why you wanted to do it when you had so many other things. It's not like you didn't have a full-time job on top of being a county commissioner and 3 children and a wife. And I was like, what is he thinking? I literally asked several people that know you, and I even mentioned to my wife, I'm like, what is Chad Stewart thinking? Like, he does not have time to run the ABC stores in Johnston County, but apparently you do.
Yeah, and I started getting all of my personal stuff out of the way. I still keep my inspection station. I've got a retired man that I work it on weekends and at nights. if people need inspections. But I had a guy that's retired and was willing to look after that. But in the meantime, I offloaded and rented out all the other stuff.
Okay.
And it was really, and I'll get to that. My wife asked me the same thing, said, you work so hard in politics, you're the chairman of the county commissioners, not everybody gets that. Why are you stepping down? You know, we're already doing okay. And I kind of sum it up. Where do you go from chairman? Ironically, several things started coming in. Keep in mind, 2 years ago, we got, which Benton Sorry holds now, we got a Senate position for Johnston County in North Carolina state legislation. And I had some people come and ask me, was that something I was interested in? So I'm juggling it. And I, keep in mind, we got a year to process all this stuff. Do I want to step down from politics? Do I want to be general manager? Do I want to run for a state office? We got this position opened up, which would be the natural course of action. From chairman, you would most likely move into a state seat. Ironically, we got redistricted to where we had a congressional seat open up. I got approached about a congressional seat, which I niched that real quick. I said, I don't care anything about nothing to do with Washington, D.C. Raleigh, unfortunately, and I think you'd agree with me, Jonathan, I could not run the business I was running and stay in Raleigh all day for $14,000 a year.
Right.
The legislators just do not get paid enough. And I've said either you're independently wealthy or you're retired, and that's who's representing us. And the way me and you live, we can't go up there. So I don't feel, even though we got great representatives, Donna White, Larry Strick, and Benton is doing a great job. He has been so helpful to me in ABC. Great. But keep in mind, one's an attorney that's able to work it out. The other two are retired. So I know the commissioners a while back, matter of fact, the year after I got off, they bumped their pay up, which I'm an advocate for.
Yes.
I promise you I did the job. Does every commissioner that we've had in the past work as hard as some commissioners? Well, that's with anything.
Right.
Obviously not. But that needs to be a paid job.
I don't disagree. And I think the legislators should be paid, you know, close to 100,000. I think they should be paid $100,000 a year.
I've always said 60. But
right. I mean, they do get $100 a day when they're in session, but it's not enough. And raising politicians' pay is not politically popular, but it is so much work. I mean, even being a county commissioner, to do it right is probably 20 or 30 hours a week.
I'm telling you, I was on the phone with Rick Hester and fellow county commissioners, because obviously we can't all meet when we want to because of the bylaws. You're dealing with issues, you're dealing with people's lives, the number of people that would come into my place of business. I've said it before. I don't know that I've ever been to a wedding, a birthday party, a concert where I could have told you who the band was, probably couldn't tell you who the bride was, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it better than anything I've ever done in my life. But someone's going to say, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I loved it. I miss it more than anything I've ever missed in my lifetime. And I'm not going to say eventually I might look at it again.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed helping people. I really enjoyed working through issues. We got a great board of commissioners, and I'm not saying that because I've technically somewhat worked for them. I serve with these guys.
Right.
And the newly elected ones, I know them. I know them well. And from a county standpoint, I know we've got growth issues, and we can talk for 5 days on everybody's complaints and what's going on. As Jeff Carver, my board member and fellow county commissioner, I'll take our problems over everybody else's any day to the week.
Well, right. I mean, you've got...
Would you rather have overcrowded schools or schools closing?
Right. And, you know, being from Scotland County, they're closing schools.
Bingo. So you're a prime example.
Right. And it's a county that is losing population, not gaining population. And
I know there's a balance.
Right.
Me and you've known each other for a long time. Yeah. We've been to a lot of political events together. We've talked about many issues together. Me and you're not new to one another. And I get it.
Yeah, no,
I get the frustration, but you don't build roads and wait for people to come. You don't build schools and wait for them to fill up. It's just simply not feasible. And the state's going to lag on roads. We just have got a new public safety center that I approved. I was a county commissioner along with my fellow commissioners. It should have been put there in 2008. And that's when my dad was on the board. The problem was we went $15 million over budget on 2 high schools, Corinth and Cleveland. Right. $30 million we had to make up. You also remember what happened in 2008.
Well, we had the economy crash too. No, there's no doubt.
So the sheriff was very patient with us, but he finally came to me and said, hey, it's time to lead the way. Your daddy promised me this thing in 2008, and I've sat patient. And the feds were on him. You know the contracts, and you know more about it.
Well, and we had a federal contract there with our jail where we had to guarantee so many beds for federal prisoners, and that was part of how they built that jail 30 years ago.
Exactly.
And the jail was overcrowded. They were having staffing issues. It was no longer really safe with the number of people that were in it, with the guards and all of that stuff. I did a lot of criminal defense for a long time. I spent many, many days
I know you have.
in the old Johnston County jail, and we needed that jail. We needed the new jail a long time ago.
And if I can remember correctly, I think we had budgeted $60 million. I think it came in at 45. And we said, wow, we also need the public safety center. Y'all need courtrooms. Superior Court Judge Tom Locke has been after me, and we're great friends, but been after him for a long time. Miss Jackie Lee, remember Judge Jackie? They need courtrooms.
Right.
And I think this freed up a lot, and it gave us money, as far as the county standpoint, to go ahead and do the public safety center also.
Right. And it's now open, and it looks great, and all of that too. So yeah, so that's exciting. Let's talk about the ABC board itself. So for a lot of people listening to this or new to North Carolina, the liquor in North Carolina is controlled by the state, and it is sold through the county stores, right?
Yep.
So explain that, because in a lot of states you have private liquor stores and all that stuff, but that's not North Carolina. North Carolina has complete control over the liquor.
It is, and bear with me. I mean, you would agree and disagree, and we've always been able to do that with a lot of issues. And I'm here today because we're still friends. I'm ashamed of what I did not know about ABC. And beer's my preference. I hate to say it, but I've never been much of a liquor guy. But serving as a county commissioner, matter of fact, I don't think I've ever been in an ABC store until I took this job. And keep in mind, I'm only 2.5 years into it, so there's still a lot I don't know.
Right.
And I might get something wrong. If I do, I'd be glad to come back and correct it, or you correct it for me when you edit or whatnot. But I was ashamed to be a county commissioner, 8, 9 years, and it just really plays into how great a job Sway did before he retired. It stayed off the radar. We appointed board members. We got an audit every year at our desk as county commissioner, and we'd thumb through it and ask the finance director, hey, is everything good? Yeah, numbers look good. I couldn't have told you how many stores we got. I couldn't have told you how it operated. But it plays into what good job he did. He kept out of the fire, of the spotlight. It's not always that good in other counties.
Right.
And let me break it down. We got 50 states, obviously. There's 17 what we call controlled states. I think prohibition was 1935?
About
37, the end of prohibition. At that point across the United States, the states held referendums, and they put it on local ballots for the counties. Do you want to sell liquor as a controlled state? And right now, out of 50, we've only got 17, and those controlled states are done a little bit different. Ours is what I consider the best ever. Keep in mind, I'm a Republican. I see all issues. I'm not trying to get political, but the bottom line is, you're pretty much anti-government. Private sector can do it better. In 2.5 years, I think this is the only thing that's probably ever been gotten right. The legislation did this almost perfect. But in Johnston County, keep in mind, I think it's 35 or 37, it was time for the counties or towns to figure out what they wanted to do and put it on the ballot. It took till 64 before our county voted it in. I don't know how many times it was on the ballot before that, but we voted it in 64 as a countywide thing. Now, you take Sampson County. Clinton has Clinton ABC. They have a 3-member board that's appointed by the town council. Then you got Sampson County ABC. So I think there's one in Newton Grove and might be another one. And then they've got a 3-member board. We refer to them as boards, ABC boards. You take Harnett County, it's not like Johnston. It's got Andrew Board, which is town council. They appoint their board members. They appoint a general manager that runs that one store. You got a Lillington board. Then you got a Dunn board, but you don't have a Harnett County board. Now you do have a New Hanover County board. You've got a Wake County board. You got a Mecklenburg. You've got a Wilson. So it's all about who decided to come into the game and what year they decided to come in. And the state, you got 181 boards. And you got 100 counties. So if that gives you any indication of how it is. And the state hits on the issues all the time, and it would be so much better for a lot of issues that we'll get into later if you just had 100 boards. Each county ran like we do in Johnston. But the towns don't want to give up their source of revenue.
Correct.
But you can't tell me someone in the legislature can't figure out how that they still can get that part of the revenue, but more organize it. But that's kind of how it was brought about. So we're county run. We came in 64, and the first store was in Smithfield. Then we built one in Selma. Then we built one in Kenley. And for crying out loud, we built one in Meta. We didn't build a store, but we went in where at the crossroads there, rented a spot. Then we came to Benson, and I'm going to say all this was done from 64 to the early 70s. And then we went to Clayton. Then eventually we worked our way to Flowers Plantation. Then we worked our way to Kenley and Princeton. And then at 18, we came to McGee's Crossroads. So we got 9 total stores.
Right. We have Cleveland.
When 40 came through in the early 90s, late 80s, it killed Meta. But this boomed. We built right here at 4042, right over across the road.
Right.
I think that's the second building that was built in this community when 40 opened up. So we shut Meta down and we called this store number 4. And some stores we own standalone and some we rent flex space or buildings. But I'm doing an aggressive campaign on building stores. I've been there 2.5 years. I've closed on a piece of land at McGee's Crossroads, and we got a building a quarter of way under construction, 8,500 square foot. We're building the same. 2 weeks after I got the job, we opened this store at 4042.
The new one at 4042.
The new one.
Over behind
And that's the prototype.
Right.
We're building that same store.
Okay.
Now in Clayton, I was in this position 2 weeks and I bought a piece of land. Well, we did. ABC bought a piece of land up at Walmart Shopping Center, right up the road where we're at. We'll start putting that out to bid, and it'll be the same prototype, but it'll be 10,000 square foot instead of 85.
Okay.
And we're in negotiations at Flowers where we rent flex space from Miss Becky Flowers and her group. We're in final negotiations on a piece of land there, and we'll build a 10,000 square foot, same prototype store there.
Okay.
So I've pretty much been a realtor. I've been a construction guy. I saw a superintendent.
Right.
And still trying to learn liquor. But
so the counties builds the stores, and then the counties buy the liquor from the state.
okay,
Is that right? How's this work?
That's right. What happens? We got a state warehouse, and we've got what we call a commission, ABC commission. It's on Tryon Road. The commission is one building, and you got a 200-something thousand square foot warehouse that's way outdated, and we're looking at getting a 400,000 square foot warehouse. State warehouse. Every liquor, and we got one in Clayton that we rent for overflow.
Right. The state has a warehouse to house liquor in Clayton.
And
right.
one thing that needs to be known, if you ever bought a bottle of liquor not to put you on the spot,
I don't think so.
it's not costing you a dime. If you don't buy liquor, it costs the taxpayer not 1 penny. But you do get to enjoy the revenue off of it, and we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
But so all the liquor comes from all these distilleries all over the world. And it's layered with reps, and it's layered with suppliers, and it's really convoluted. But all the liquor comes at the warehouse in Clayton and then on Tryon Road.
Okay.
And from there, it goes as far as Manio and as far as Asheville.
Okay.
That's why they're looking at Johnston County, which I'm helping work with our representatives to get the warehouse, because I think there is an enormous amount of liquor from Wake County going east, substantially more than going west. So if the politics will stay out of it and you use a private business mind model, Johnston County with all our interstates and our vast amount of land, that's where it needs to be. So I'm helping with the commission get that done. But yes, and from there, LB&B is a private trucking company per se. They got their tentacles all over the globe, but they're in fuel, they're in basically transport. They won the last 10-year contract to truck our liquor to all ABC stores or locations designated where they need to deliver.
Okay.
And then when I came on, he just signed a new 10-year contract. I believe there was a little controversy there, but I think I found out that nobody else really bid it.
So the state buys the liquor from all the distilleries around the world. They house it, and then the county buys it.
Or town.
Or the town.
We call them boards.
The boards buy it from the state. No, buys it from the distilleries.
Mm-hmm. LB&B ships it. They get a per case price to deliver to all the stores. Then the state, I'll show you some numbers in a minute, but we spend $1.5 million a month where we send checks out to 100 different distilleries across the world.
Okay. All right.
They invoice us through LB&B. So nobody's got no money yet. Okay. All the liquor gets into one warehouse, and then it gets distributed out from that warehouse. Then invoices go into that warehouse. I pull them down on my computer, and then our office individually, and it's all done on computer, automatically sends checks for those invoices.
Okay. All right.
So we'll send out 100 checks a month across the world.
Okay.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
All right. And then you also deliver, if I'm Outback Steakhouse or Applebee's
I'll
or
get
any
into
of the
that.
bars,
Yep.
right? Because we're going to sort of move this along a little bit.
We call them mixed beverage.
Okay. And they buy from your board.
They can you can go anywhere in the world and buy liquor you want, as long as you're of age and
Right.
it's legal and you're not intoxicated. If you're what we call a mixed beverage, an Outback Steakhouse, and I'm not here to throw nothing out for anybody, but
Right.
Clubhouse up
Right.
the road, you have to get your liquor from your local board.
Correct.
Which is me.
Right.
You pay $3.75 more than an individual would pay. And you can't go anywhere else to get it. So what they do, I think we've got 110 between Mexican restaurants and we got 110 accounts. And out of our 9 locations, 5 of them is what we prepare mixed beverage for. And I try to assign, like Clubhouse, we get theirs here at 4042.
Okay.
I'm not going to have to go to Smithfield.
Right.
Now, if you're in Clayton, then you go to Clayton. And what we do in the office, we set you up an account. You send your order in to the manager, either fax or email. We've got 48 hours to pull that order. We stamp it like a pricing gun. We stamp it with a number, and then we box it. You come pick it up. The restaurant picks it up and brings it back. Now, when they're done with that bottle of liquor, they have check it off in their book, and they have to keep the stamp and show it's properly disposed. And that reason is they don't go to the store personally and try to cheat $3 and whatever 75 cents. And we have a law enforcement officer mandated by the state of North Carolina that a certain percentage of my budget every year has to go to law enforcement. So it provides him everything he needs to go to these restaurants, and we're more compliant. We're here to teach. We're here to help. Obviously, if somebody repeatedly is going to not abide by the law, he has to write tickets. But we provide him a vehicle, everything he needs to do his duties. And steady doing training, as we talked about earlier, on checking IDs. I know people are frustrated because they might be a regular customer. They might be 70 or 80 years old and have to pull an ID out. We just want to be consistent and fair to everybody. We don't want to say, hey, we're going to card you, not you. Do we make mistakes? Sure. But we try to limit them. I think we do a better job. We talked about it earlier. Seems like every time there's a sting, I think you referred to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, before you got there, Clayton would run a sting. The Clayton Police Department would run a sting where they would send an underage person in, and they wouldn't even send them with a fake ID. They just send them in, and they'd go up and down 70, and it was unbelievable how successful these people that the Clayton would hire to do. And every time it sent like that they would hit the Johnston County ABC store was selling to somebody underage. And that was so frustrating to me because, like, you're not in this business to make a profit. You're a government entity providing
alcohol
a service.
beverage control.
Right.
And that control is the biggest word.
Right.
Because we're telling the world the reason why we're state affiliated and not like the other outside the 17 states where you can go to Walmart or Costco and get your liquor. We're saying we can control the sale of it to minors better than y'all can. So it is somewhat embarrassing when, apparently you can't. And so the commission does a great job on training us, providing training. I would say that's the most important part of our job.
And it's a crime. And these agents who work for the county that sold to these underage children that the Clayton Police Department used were charged with a criminal misdemeanor.
That's right.
I don't know if they were fired, but they definitely were charged for
our
crime.
policy states, and we have a policy manual I have to update every 2-3 years, and we got an HR director that helps me with that. It states that if you're not convicted, it's my discretion whether you stay on. If you get a conviction, you got to go.
You got to go. Yeah, so that's good. The other thing that I like, and the reason that I am, there's a big push, and we don't have time to get into this episode today, about privatizing all of the ABC boards. And there's some people in the legislature would like to see that. I personally don't want to see that because you have very limited hours and you do the best job, I believe, of checking IDs. And I think that is important, when it comes to having this liquor out there. It's just my opinion.
That's right. And we don't have a lot of time today. I would love to come back and touch on some more topics. One thing I was bouncing around a little bit, back to when the legislation was wrote. The North Carolina legislators in 1964, 63, 62, whenever they decided that we were going to, they set the perimeters. But they are so good about giving local control. Basically, they say you cannot open before 9 and you cannot be open after 9.
Correct.
But we don't care if you open at 10, if you close at 7, we give that to you. They set these broad parameters that I think as fair as anything I've ever seen.
You're not open on Sunday?
That's mandated. Now,
Right.
You can talk with Benton and Larry and Donna and the legislators. There's an omnibus bill out there that's South Carolina just did it. Virginia's doing it. I think it's very disrespectful to the religious community. I think it's going to hurt our bottom line. Whoever bought 2 bottles on Saturday night is going to buy 1 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. And then I've still got staff stores. But once again, if the state says they set the parameters that you can open on Sunday, don't mean I have to. I work with my board on that. I can open 1 store, 2 stores. So they set the parameters, but they give us a lot of local control.
Right. So how much money does the county approximately make on the sale of liquor?
I'm going to say $2 to $3 million a year.
And that's the profit for the county.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Here, we have to operate. We have to give so much to and that's part of my job when I do my budget, which our budget year ends June 30th. We gave $150,000 to alcohol education and recovery. I have a formula I have to go by, same as the law enforcement, X amount. If we don't use it with the law enforcement officer we got, then we send it to local towns, the sheriff department. Same thing with the nonprofits. I've got a formula that I use that says this year it was $150,000. Overflow here at McGee's Crossroad has got a recovery program. They got $50,000. The one in Selma,
Reentry.
I think that's it.
Right.
Yeah. I present this to my board and they approve it. They got 50. I think my kids club got 10,000. I dodged them last year. Well, Thad, my buddy, he comes by,
Well, I mean, my kids club's a great program.
Thad Woodard, he always comes by.
Right.
But I got to think, I couldn't justify coloring books. I mean,
Right.
keep in mind, we're not here to keep you from buying liquor, but these kids come from affected homes of the product that we're selling.
Right.
So how I justified it is, wait, if we're going to spend $100,000 on recovering adults, why can't I justify spending some money on educating in the beginning?
Right.
Look, it ain't for everybody. We're not telling you not to drink.
Right.
Obviously, you're not old enough
Right.
to drink,
Right.
but you need to be educated and know
Right.
that it don't work out for everybody. But
So-
we give 100. I was going to try to pull up some numbers for you right quick because I know you're a numbers guy. $710 million went to the state legislature. $710 million.
Is what the state got. off of
Exactly what the
selling
state
liquor.
got. And
Oh
then-
my goodness.
And then I'll send you this information when I leave. The general fund received $534 million. County and city distributions received $132 million. This is the state now. So your local people,
Man, I had
towns
no
and
idea.
county, got $132 million. Local alcohol education across the state, where I said I gave $150.
Right.
Well, we did $23,300,000. Law enforcement, $13 million. Department of Health and Human Services, $2 million. And county's rehabilitation, $4 million. So all that adds up to be $710 million. That is absolutely no risk to you, no risk to her, no risk to me. You don't have a dime in a building. You don't pay for no labor. I'm not even talking about the jobs ABC provides. And if you don't buy liquor, you're paying for none of this, but you're benefiting from that. So it's my understanding from my legislative buddies, when it gets into session every year about privatization, they can't get past that number. How do we make that up?
Well, $700 million is a lot of money.
How do we make that up?
Right. Well,
when you got no risk, it's just dumping into your account and across the state of North Carolina. You got legislation that is perfectly wrote, and you're out of sight, you're out of mind, and for the most part, other than some mistakes here and there, it's ran very well, producing jobs. Every building in here, it belongs to the county. If we shut down or went into privatization tomorrow, we would turn our property over to the county. If it's in a municipality, county, from being on county commissioners, they probably would give it to the town, or they would sell it at auction and put the money in the general fund. So it's really an interesting, very interesting.
I had no idea it was $700 million. The state budget this year
And
is
I'm gonna say-
sometime
I'm gonna
around
say this,
29
I'm
or
gonna
30
say-
billion.
I'm going to say it's going to be $1 billion in 2 years.
Yeah. Well, and the state budget is 29 or 30 billion this year. So that's a lot.
That's
I
a
mean,
lot.
that is a lot. I mean, that's probably more than the lottery in some years. If you really get down to it. So I had no idea. $700 million is the state's
with zero
profits.
risk. State don't have a dollar in the game.
Right. So
Other than a warehouse that's being rented by
Right.
a private trucking company and the commission.
Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right. Well, so as we wrap this up, the last question we ask everybody is, what do you love most about Johnston County?
I think I put on that form everything. There's nothing I don't like about Johnston County. The traffic and the growth is aggravating. I get it. I'm a progressive guy. I come from a rural area. I hear all the time, hey, when are we going to get an Olive Garden? When's Four Oaks going to get a Bojangles? I said, well, let me bring you a couple of subdivisions. Oh, no, we don't want them. When are you going to give me internet in Blackman's Crossroads? I said, let me get about 4 more subdivisions out there. You need about 300 more homes. Oh, well, we don't want that. You don't get the good without the bad. So everybody wants nicer amenities, but nobody wants the people here that pays for those amenities.
Right.
But Johnston County is very diverse. I think the last time we looked, 75% of this county is farmland and woodland. That's a large percentage. Correct me if I'm off on my numbers. I think the last time I checked when I was county commissioner, 50% of this county weren't even born here. It's very diverse. Back to the liquor. Liquor's not what it was back in my day. You were ashamed. Women didn't even go in the stores. You were ashamed to go in them. Still a little bit that in the more rural areas, but 50% of this county weren't born here. They want nice stores. They want ABC. They want products. They want to go in and shop. They don't care if they're female or what race or nationality. That's a destination for them. And we have to make that, we have to adjust for that. So the center block store hidden in the corner is a way of the past. But I enjoy the people. We've got great pharmaceutical. We got good paying jobs. We got a lot of farmland, as we mentioned. Come on, Jonathan. What are we, 3 hours from the mountains, an hour and a half from the coast? I can walk out of my yard and get on the interstate and go to New York or Florida, or I can go to the beach or California. The climate, I think it's just the greatest place in the world.
I don't disagree. It's awesome. And the people. It always comes back
We got
to the
genuine
people.
people. We've
We've
got
got,
genuine
right,
people.
people.
When I was
It's the
county
people.
commissioner, they'd be aggravated, and that's part of life. They would come, we allow them to vent their frustrations, and most of the time if you explain or listen to people, and we did a lot of change in Jonathan. We increased lot sizes. We've done a lot of stuff around our interchanges as far as apartments. We got off of residential sewer outside of municipalities. So we slowly controlled the growth, but we didn't want to send the signal that we were closing our doors. And I don't want to see that. But it's just anything you want to do. I think on that form I also saw what would I like to see in Johnston County.
Right.
If anything, I would love to see more recreation. I'd love to see
Right.
more county maybe run ball fields. I do think, and we have bought some land with the county and bought open space, but I think if you got to balance it, and the infrastructure is just going to have to play catch up. It always will. But you need a place for people to go see their kids play ball, to ride horses, to walk their dog, to go out and enjoy the day. And I think we've got a lot of those areas. I think the towns are real good about securing areas for that. The county is really good about doing it. We've got great leadership in this county. We've had it for many years. Lord have mercy, Rick Hester, I think the longest serving county commissioner. He's a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
Have you ever stopped Rick Hester where he didn't stop and talk?
No, and he's the longest serving county manager in North Carolina.
Have you ever asked him a question you didn't get an answer for?
I have not.
He's just the greatest ever.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's been great, and I know he won't be here forever because he'll be retiring in the next few years, and the county commissioners will have to find another manager. That'll be interesting to see, and that'll be a big decision for that board when that comes.
But one more thing, back to your point, when you asked me in the beginning, I know I've kind of jumped around, but why would I do this ABC job? I was getting to the other things to possibly line up, but my old buddy Jeff Carver called me and said, you just can't accomplish enough, can you? And I said, yeah, I want to tackle this. I want to build these stores. I want to see this industry, once again, chairman of the commissioners. I mean, I didn't really want to go home. I love doing that more than anything in the world. I want to do it again one day, but I wanted to see what I could do here.
And at least from the outside, I think you've done a pretty good job. These new stores are nice. I haven't heard about your employees selling to underage people.
Not yet.
Which is a huge pet peeve of mine. So far, so good. So anyway, I want to thank Chad Stewart for being our guest here on the Best of Johnston County Podcast. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, will you do us a favor of leaving us a 5-star review down below so that our availability will become more out there for other people to see? Also, do us a favor of liking or subscribing or following this podcast wherever you're seeing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any of our social media channels of the Best of Johnston County on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, or any of those, so that you'll be made aware of future episodes of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. The Best of Johnston County Podcast comes out every Monday, and if this is your first time listening, go back and listen to some of the previous episodes. We've had a lot of great guests, including County Commissioner Patrick Harris, County Commissioner Ted Godwin, County Parks and Rec Director Adrian O'Neill, local dentist Dr. Tim Sims, and Miss America's Team in Hanley House from right here in the Cleveland community. I think you will find all of those fascinating, and you will learn why they love Johnston County as much as Chad Stewart loves Johnston County, as much as I love Johnston County. So if you love Johnston County as much as I do, this is the podcast for you. Thanks for listening.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.